Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hounds, and for this video I'm going to go through all the horror movies that I own on Criterion, Blu-ray or DVD. And what's interesting is as I was getting these movies out for this video, it kind of occurred to me that there's not one bad movie in this bunch, which is really cool. Criterion do release some really great stuff, with the exception of one film that personally I don't really like. All these movies are really great movies, and what's also interesting is a lot of these films, they're horror films, but they're not really kind of in-your-face horror. A lot of these movies they kind of excel in terms of creating a really effective atmosphere. They have like a really eerie, creepy, brooding atmosphere to them, which maybe is what attracts them to the Criterion folks. But I just thought that was interesting. But let's get into it. So the first one is Antichrist, which is a movie that I really enjoyed. I know this one does tend to divide people, and I can see why, but I thought this was a remarkably well-made film. This is the story of a couple played by Willem Dafoe and Charlotte Gainsbourg, I think it was, and they kind of go away to this sort of rural retreat to try and get over the death of their young child, who dies falling out of a window while they're having sex. So I mean, that doesn't cause you some issues, but things don't go to plan, and they both just kind of descend into madness, which involves violence and abuse, sort of self-harm, sexual mutilation, all that kinds of stuff. It's kind of hard to watch at times, but really well made film. I can see why it's not for everyone, because it is quite an arty film and it deals with a very unpleasant subject. But I was just taken aback with how well made this movie was. So yeah, Antichrist. The next movie is The Blob. This movie is good. I enjoy this movie. There are other movies from the 1950s which I think are better. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, for example. And I also prefer the 80s remake to this movie. But I do think this is a good film. Steve McQueen's first movie, I believe, which is interesting. And the blob creature looks really good. So yeah. Next movie is Blood for Dracula, which I absolutely love, and I never hear anybody talk about this film. I hardly even see it in people's collections, and it's a shame, because this is such an amazing movie. It's an interesting one. It manages to be both sleazy but have this kind of lush aristocratic feel to it. The cinematography is beautiful, the settings are great. Udo Kier is amazing as Dracula. He kind of really hams it up, yet he's still believable, and you feel his pain and anguish as a vampire who is running out of blood and running out of life force. But yeah, more people should watch this. I can't recommend Blood for Dracula enough. It is a brilliant film, which sadly just seems to completely go under the radar. Next one is Carnival of Souls, and like I said at the beginning, a lot of these movies, the thing that makes them so great is the atmosphere that they create, and this is a great example of this. This is a really kind of weird, trippy feeling kind of movie, but so well made, really good. You can kind of see where it's going. I discovered this a few years ago, and I'd seen other movies that have kind of done this sort of thing, albeit they were more modern and came after this film. But even if you kind of know where this is going, the way this movie pans out, and that dreamlike feel that it has, is just really quite captivating. Brilliant film, Carnival of Souls. Really like that one. Next one is Cat People. This is the original movie from the 40s, and if you want to see a film that is more subtle and suggestive rather than in-your-face horror, this is certainly a great movie to check out. another one that is masterfully made, brilliantly directed, just really, really amazing film. I wasn't too keen on the 80s remake. I thought that one was a little bit dull. But this one is it still does everything that it's supposed to do in terms of being creepy, being suspenseful. Yeah, amazing film. Next one is Diabolique, a French film. Again, amazing atmosphere to this movie. This is about a woman who works at this school, and her husband, I think he might be the head teacher at the school as well, but I don't know. But he's like really abusive and horrible, and she ends up killing him with the help of a friend, and they dispose his body in a swimming pool on the school campus. And then sometime later they have to drain the swimming pool for a separate reason, and so she's like sweating it because she thinks they're going to find her husband's body, but the body's gone. And therein kind of lies the mystery and the plot to this movie. But amazing film. I think Alfred Hitchcock originally wanted to direct this, but the rights had already been sealed somewhere else, which is a really interesting idea. But not taking away anything from the guy who did this, because it's a real tightly made movie. Highly recommended. So I did say there was one film on this list which I am personally not that keen on, and it's Razorhead, which I know is a very popular movie. This one, on the whole, gets very favourable reviews. But for me, I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't quite get into the look and feel of the film, the kind of black and white post-apocalyptic feel, kind of the nihilistic style that this one had. At the time, I just didn't like it, couldn't get into that. It is one that I know I should kind of rewatch and try again, because it is very critically acclaimed, but at the time I just, no, it didn't do it for me. But yeah, I will revisit that one just to see if things do change. Next one is Eyes Without a Face, another French movie, another beautifully made film, amazing atmosphere, really nicely made type of movie. This is about a surgeon who he has this like beautiful daughter whose face is mangled in a car accident, I think it is. So he then devotes himself to try and rectify her face, but in doing this he ends up like killing women for their facial features and things like that. Don't remember too much about it, other than the fact that I just thought it was a beautiful film. I think if you're looking for alternatives to like modern horror movies or mainstream horror movies, something like Eyes Without a Face is definitely worth checking out. Next movie is Flesh for Frankenstein. This is like the sibling film to Blood for Dracula. They were both sort of made back to back. And I love this film too. Love it just as much as Blood for Dracula. It has the same kind of qualities. It's kind of sleazy but classy at the same time. Udo Kier is amazing as Frankenstein. And it's also got a lot of humour in this as well. I don't know how intentional that is. I would wager that it's not as intentional as what perhaps people would say. But yeah, this it does have some quite humorous moments. I was lucky enough to go and see this at the cinema a few years ago, and people were really kind of laughing along to this film like a comedy. Not laughing at the film, but laughing at sort of the craziness of Udo Kier's Baron Frankenstein, because he really is. He's crazy in this film, and it's almost to a comical level. But it really does have the horror elements too. There's some brilliant gore in this movie. This was actually a video nasty in the UK, so yeah, it really does deliver the goods. But yeah, Flesh for Frankenstein, again, not talked about all that much, which is a shame. Next movie is Island of Lost Souls, which is like an early take on the Dr. Moreau tale. This has Charles Lawton as the Doctor, who gives an amazing performance. Yeah, Charles Lawton in this is one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. He's so sinister, but so captivating at the same time. Bela Lugosi also plays a part in this as one of the creatures, and yeah, just it's another one of these like black and white movies from the 30s, but it just really kicks ass. It is such a great movie, such a gripping, entertaining film. So yeah, another one that's highly recommended. Next one is Quaid Down. This is a Japanese film from the 60s, and it's an anthology film as well. I don't remember all that much about this one. I wish I remembered it more, because again, I remember being really impressed with it, thinking it was a very good film. There's 4 segments in this. The one that I remember the most is the one that takes place in the snow, and there's like a ghost of a woman that haunts these 2 guys who are stuck out there in the snow. And I think the legend is, I think one of them dies, but one of them gets away, and the legend is, as long as you don't talk about this woman, you live. And somewhere down the line he lets slip that there was a woman there, and yeah, she comes back and haunts him. I think that's what happens, but that's a very ropey memory that I have of this film. But like I said, I do remember it being very good, very intriguing film. Next movie I have is Pan's Labyrinth. I haven't actually watched this since it came out, which was like 2006 or something like that. I haven't even opened this Blu-ray. I remember thinking this was okay. I didn't quite know how to take it when I first watched it. It's another one that I need to revisit. But yeah, I'll have to get this open and watch it again. Next movie is The Phantom Carriage. Now this one, I actually kind of questioned how much I would enjoy this, because it's a black and white silent movie from 1921 in Swedish with subtitles. And I kind of thought, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get on with this one, but I really misjudged it. And being honest, I kind of judged this a bit too much, because when I watched it, I really enjoyed it. It's a really wonderful film, and it has some amazing imagery in this film, particularly the scene with the Grim Reaper on his horse and cart going down this country lane. It's just amazing stuff. And kind of the old-fashionedness of this film, the ancientness of it, kind of adds to it. It gives it that level of kind of like legitimate creepiness, because it's so old and cobwebby. It just adds to the atmosphere. But yeah, really, really wonderful film. Also, this is the oldest film that I have in my collection, which is some interesting Horror Hands trivia there. Next movie I have is Repulsion, Roman Polanski's movie, and seriously impressively well-made movie. This is the story of a woman who has like a mental breakdown. She is sort of left alone in this apartment, and she just starts to experience episodes of psychosis and hallucinations, and it all kind of ends in violence and murder. But it's such a well-made film, very sort of subtle in its build-up and its development, but amazing film to watch. Really enjoyed Repulsion. Highly recommend this. Yeah, I'm going to say this is my favourite Roman Polanski movie, followed by Rosemary's Baby, but I don't have that on Criterion at the moment. Next one is Scanners, David Cronenberg. This has a really nice Blu-ray release, but I actually saw the DVD for like really cheap. Like couldn't turn it down cheap. So I have this, which I'm happy with. Scanners, I think it's okay. It's not my favourite thing from Cronenberg, but I do like it. Obviously, it's got the amazing head exploding effects. I think the story of this is a little bit convoluted, so that I do kind of struggle with the film a little bit. However, to kind of flip that, I do give him props for creating like a really kind of in-depth storyline. So what I like about it, even though it is convoluted, it's not just heads exploding and a series of effects. It has a real kind of solid storyline behind it. So, looking at things positively, that's a good thing about Scanners. Next movie I have is Silence of the Lambs. This is okay in my world. It's not my favourite of the Hannibal Lecter series. It's a good film, undeniably. So yeah, this one is good for me. Nothing outstanding, although I know it's very critically acclaimed. For me, I enjoy it. It's a good film for what it is. I prefer Hannibal to this one, but that's just me personally. Next one is Sisters, Brian De Palma's film. I don't remember much from this. I watched this years and years ago. I remember it having the split screen effect that Brian De Palma tended to do back then, which is a really cool effect. I really like the split screen things that Brian De Palma used to use. I think it's quite a unique technique, if you will, in terms of filmmaking, and it really kind of has a really effective way of telling the story. But yeah, Sisters, don't remember it, but remember it being good, if that helps. Next one is The Uninvited. I think this is from the 1940s, 1944. This is a haunted house type movie. Again, great movie, really good atmosphere. I seem to remember being really encapsulated by the location of this. It takes place in like a large mansion on the coast, on like the cliff tops next to the sea. Really kind of picturesque setting. So it was both like beautiful and creepy at the same time. So yeah, another good movie. Next movie is Vampire, or Vampire, however you want to say that, from 1932. This is another silent movie, and kind of like the Phantom Carriage, the oldness of this, the creakiness of it, adds to the kind of creepy atmosphere. Another one that I enjoyed. I'd say you have to kind of be in the mood for this one, because it is a silent black and white movie. It's German as well. A little bit of kind of expressionist thing going on here too. But yeah, certainly an interesting movie. Oh, sorry guys, there's like a full-on heat wave going on here in the UK. Next movie is The Vanishing, which is a film that chilled me to the bone. This one has one of the most terrifying endings you'll ever see in a film, and it's not kind of like blood and guts horror. It's not a creature coming after you kind of horror. It's just like a real primitive human fear kind of horror film. And yeah, this one, oh man, just even thinking about it now, it still gives me a chill. In fact, even when I'm looking at the shelves and I see this movie, I still get a bit of a chill on the back of my neck. It really is that effective. I would say if you're going to watch this movie, don't look anything up about it. It's honestly best to watch this when you don't know what it's about. It'll be more effective. But yeah, such a well-made film. I've heard that the remake is absolutely terrible and has like a nicey Hollywood ending, so I don't really have any intentions of watching that. But yeah, the original Vanishing, man, creepy stuff. Next movie, another Cronenberg one, is Videodrome. I do enjoy this movie. It's a bit weird, a bit trippy, but I like the idea of it. Got a very intriguing concept, and this release, I'll just show you. This has like the old VHS tape inside, which I thought was a pretty cool thing for Criterion to do. And the last movie I have from Criterion is White Dog, Samuel Fuller's movie, which is a really interesting film. This is about a woman who finds a dog abandoned at the side of the road and takes him in as a pet, and all seems fine. And then one day he attacks this like black guy, and they find out that it's actually been trained as a white dog, which I'd never heard of before, but apparently it's where they train a dog to attack black people, which is a terrible thing. And then Paul Winfield comes in to try and rehabilitate the dog and to retrain it. And of course Paul Winfield is a black man, so it's an interesting setup for the movie. But it's a very intriguing film, very poignant, very kind of tragic in a way. Certainly worth checking out. Definitely a good one. So they are all the movies that I own from Criterion. So thank you very much for sticking with that. It's quite a long video this time. Feel free to comment and let me know which ones are your favourites. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.